Now, the story out of Denver, ABC News in Denver is just excited. They're just cheering. The headline, Denver's Azucar Bakery wins right to refuse to make anti-gay cakes. Now, what do you think this is? Last week, the Colorado Civil Rights Division ruled that Denver's Azucar, and it may be Azucar, I don't know how, it's A-Z-U-C-A-R. I'm not purposely trying to mispronounce it. Denver's Azucar Bakery did not discriminate against William Jack, a Christian from Castle Rock, by refusing to make a couple of cakes with anti-gay messages and imagery that he requested last year. So you see, discrimination is good when it's on the side of the angels, in this case, gay activists. And corporations are good when they're on the side of angels, in this case, gay activists. It is stunning when you think back to all of the hate that leftists instinctively have for corporations. For example, how often have you heard from Democrat after Democrat that corporations are not people? Corporations are not persons. Corporations cannot use free speech. Corporations are not people, therefore they don't have free speech rights. Corporations do not have the right to engage in politics. Corporations do not have the right to donate. Corporations do not have the ability. Corporations do not have and should not have the ability to donate and participate in campaigns. And we know the left feels this because they had a giant conniption fit when the Citizens United case came for the Supreme Court, permitting and claiming all of that is constitutional. So all activity by corporations, all activity has been despised, criticized, hated. The top 10 entries on the Democrat Party or the American left's enemies list are all corporations or industries. Big retail, big oil, big coal. Go down the list, big pharmaceutical. Every industry is practically hated. The fact that they're able to donate to politics, they are hated. That is despised. The fact that they're able to engage in campaigns and have access to the First Amendment, free speech, and donations, all of the corporations are hated. You know it as well as I do, that this is something the left is known for. Now, all of a sudden, when the corporations come down on the side of the left, why, they're wonderful. It's time to celebrate them. They all of a sudden become people, good people. They all of a sudden become persons, good persons. They all of a sudden become good citizens. They all of a sudden have every right to participate in the political scene. They all of a sudden have every right to donate to causes. They all of a sudden have every right to get involved in campaigns, as long as they are doing the bidding of the left. Now, that is rank, utter hypocrisy. Sadly, I have found hypocrisy is not an effective tool in persuading people. Pointing out hypocrisy is not going to do much to change people's minds. It's interesting, and it's useful in other ways. But pointing out the hypocrisy, we've been pointing out the left's hypocrisy for 25 years. It doesn't matter to the people that support the left. They'll always come up with ways to excuse it, as will many people on the right when supposed hypocrisy is exposed there. But I think this is monumental because one of the identifying characteristics, one of them, you must be one of these if you're going to be an accredited leftist. You must hate corporate America. You must despise it. Occupy Wall Street is one of the greatest things ever because it was anti-corporation. It was anti-Wall Street. It was anti-big money. I mean, look at all the evil that happens in corporations. Look at all the evil people that are there on the days where corporations are people. Look at all the evil things. Look at all the big money. Look at all the discrimination. Look at all of the pain. Look at all of the lack of wages. Look at all of the lack of health care. Look at the hate, the never-ending list of criticisms and hate. that the left has for corporations until the corporation happens to do or say something the left agrees with, then it's the greatest thing on earth. Now, that is blatant, wanton hypocrisy. And in this case, I do wonder, the left has created a rabid, insane base of people that support them and vote for them. And it literally, I think, have created a bunch of enraged, insane lunatics. And they buy this stuff. They live it. They hate corporations. They believe all they're told about them, despise them. They're mean-spirited. They're extremists. They don't pay people enough. They try to deny them health care. They try to kill their customers. All of this, on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, Democrats and the news media tell them, well, Tim Cook, did you see they did the right thing in Indiana? Apple's great. Oh, the insane lunatic base may be a little confused because they've been persuaded all of these years to hate and revile and distrust corporations. So back to Denver. The dispute that this case is about began March 13th last year when William Jack, a Christian from Castle Rock, Colorado, went into a bakery and requested a couple of cakes shaped like Bibles. He asked that one cake have the image of two groomsmen holding hands in front of a cross with a red X over them. He asked that the cake be decorated with the biblical verses, God hates sin, Psalm 45:7, and homosexuality is a detestable sin, Leviticus 18:2. On the second Bible-shaped cake, William Jack requested the image of two young groomsmen with the red X. He wanted it decorated with the words, God loves sinners. And while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, Romans 5:8. He told the Civil Rights Agency that he ordered the cakes with the imagery and biblical verses to convey the same-sex marriage as, in his words, unbiblical and inappropriate. Now, there's no evidence that these cakes were intended to be served at a gay wedding, so we don't know that anybody would have been hurt by them. But anyway, the bakery refused his request. And this bakery was told it was fine and dandy to refuse this request. This bakery didn't want to bake these two cakes that William Jack came in and wanted, for whatever reasons, and everybody sides with him. Well, this is reprehensible what he was asking. It's reprehensible what he wanted. We don't support that. We don't agree with that. No way. And the Colorado Civil Rights Division last week ruled that this bakery did not discriminate against William Jack, who is the Christian from Castle Rock, who ordered these two cakes. So discrimination happened here. Discrimination is good when it's on the side of the angels. It's a two-way street. I don't know William Jack, never heard of him. My guess is he's trying to make a point here in the midst of all of this by trying to point out that it's only certain people who are being discriminated against. Quick time out, back with much more after this. Don't go away. Has anybody also noticed that in all of these so-called denial of rights cases at gays, that it seems to be limited to small businesses in the wedding industry, baking cakes and arranging flowers, and maybe taking pictures. And my point here, there's no question that these are targeted industries. And I don't doubt, so I'm very confident in saying that in addition to all of the public reasons given why gay marriage should be legal, there's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that they don't say and that you're not supposed to figure out. And then if anybody does figure out and point out, that person's going to be criticized and laughed at and made to look like an idiot. And gay marriage is an activist tool. It's not just about who you love. I'm sure there's some gay people want to get married. I'm sure that they love each other, want to get married and fine. But there's an element, it's the Democrats after all, It's the left, it's liberalism. There's an element of the gay marriage industry that has nothing to do with love. It has nothing to do with marriage. It has everything to do with pushing boundaries and wresting power away from gigantic majorities. And those gigantic majorities all happen to be found, one way or another, deeply involved in religion. So this is not a quest for rights. It's an assault and an attempt to gain power or transfer power. When you look at the industries, for example, you don't see an Indian, Native American, who owns a printing store. You don't see that person being legally compelled to print posters for the Washington Redskins. At least we don't yet. I may be giving them the idea here. How about some environmentalist wackos who, oppose the coal industry and try to force the coal industry into adopting, environmentalist wacko ideas. It's all targeted at small little mom and pop businesses who are all involved in the wedding industry, one way or the other. Here is Chris in Nashville. Chris, we start with you on the phones today. Great to have you here. Hello.
Hey, thanks for your service to our country, Rush. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And wanted to start off just with a question here. Why is it that all of my leftist friends, they hold a double standard when it comes to evil corporations, if you will? They'll sit there and they'll rant and they'll rave and they'll talk about how, big evil corporations, they're horrible, and they'll do this while they're glancing at their iPhone or looking at me over their Apple laptop.
Right.
Can you help me understand that, Rush?
Well, I don't know that I really have to. I think you're a smart enough guy. You probably know. You're just calling to set me up here. But
no.
I don't mean set up. I mean, you're serving me a softball. You're throwing me a hanging curveball across the plate here. Because clearly the attack on corporations, while it has its roots in Marxism, and as is the case in most everything, there are some duped, leftists to the core who really believe in the evil of corporations and so forth. But the leaders of these movements are simply enacting and advancing a political agenda and trying to use these techniques to marshal an army of supporters that are basically mind-numbed robots and just are going to follow. Look at Apple and the situation in Indiana. Now, Apple does business all over the world in countries that behead homosexuals when they find them, such as Iran, such as in Saudi Arabia. You want to talk about discrimination against women? Apple does business in country after country where these things happen. But when Apple speaks up, it's only about Indiana. Indiana's the only rotten place where these things happen. And normally supportive of the idea that corporations are evil, liberals all of a sudden start embracing these corporations now. But your question even predates that. If they so despise corporations, why are they out there buying their products? And they would tell you they've got no choice, that everybody has to have a cell phone, and your friends would tell you they want the best. And so they've got to bite the bullet. They've got to bite their tongue and go out and do it, even though they don't like it. And it illustrates that the courage of their convictions is somewhat less than what they would have you believe. But again, you're pointing out hypocrisy. I could do that all. There's a great piece today at Real Clear Politics by Joel Kotkin calling out the high-tech hypocrites. You would love this piece, Chris. The recent brouhaha over Indiana's religious freedom law revealed a couple of basic things: the utter stupidity of the Republican Party and the rising power of the emerging technological oligarchy, as the Republicans were once again demonstrating their total incomprehension of new social dynamics. The tech elite showed a fine hand by leading the opposition to the Indiana law. This positioning gained the tech industry an embarrassingly laudatory piece in the New York Times, portraying its support for gay rights as symbolic of a new social activism that proves their commitment to progressive ideals. And that, Chris, is what makes them okay. Their commitment to progressive ideals, their commitment to liberalism means as corporations, they're all of a sudden now the good guys. So many tech companies have embraced a mission that they say is larger than profits, says Glenn Kelman, the chief executive of Redfin. It's an online real estate firm. He said, once you wrap yourself up in a moral flag, you have to carry it to the top of other hills. This guy is saying that the way they're getting away with it, Chris, these corporations are convincing their customers that they are far more concerned about social activism and social justice than they are profits. Now, that is an absolute crock. But they can easily persuade their leftist customers of that because everybody wants to think that they're angels. Everybody wants to think that they're doing good works. Got to take a break because of the constraints of the programming format and the time. Be right back.